felt increasingly hopeful, knowing that upgrading to a level 2 battleship was just around the corner. The journey was relatively safe, and as he arrived near the gas station, he was surprised to find a bustling area filled with survivors. The scene was quite lively. Chapter 51. Is your car a bottomless pit? All survivors. Wang Cheng's vehicle slowly moved forward. He didn't see any signs of the military. Instead, there were various private cars and colorful survivors. They gathered in groups, frantically scavenging for supplies and fossil fuels at the gas station. One group of survivors, numbering more than 20, armed with various firearms and knives, had taken over almost the entire gas station. While they were hoarding fuel, anyone else wanting to refuel had to pay them. Despite this, cars and small groups of survivors still lined up to refuel, exchanging supplies for gasoline. They not only filled their tanks, but also wanted barrels of oil. They needed fuel to use their vehicles. Although there were many abandoned cars on the road that could be used directly or for oil retrieval, that was too cumbersome and dangerous. For a lone individual with limited supplies, it might be manageable, but for a group of survivors with families, it was undoubtedly best to refuel directly here. Therefore, those gathered here were mostly organized survivor groups, creating a scene reminiscent of a bustling crowd in a post-apocalyptic world. However, they did not erupt into any conflict. Firstly, this is a gas station, and secondly, due to the gathering of people, various mutated beings are approaching from all directions. It won't take long before this place becomes a perilous area surrounded by these entities. Therefore, everyone is racing against time. Even the group of dominant survivors controlling the gas station charges relatively reasonable fees, allowing others to accept it quickly, buy, and leave. Su Ling reminded, be careful. These survivors don't adhere to any rules. Wang Cheng naturally understood this. His vehicle, though small, consumes a lot of fuel, converting fossil fuel into battleship energy. He needs 7 to 8 tanks of fuel just to fill up, making him a true fuel consumer. If it weren't for this, he wouldn't have specifically come to the gas station. He could have chosen to look for other abandoned vehicles on the main road to siphon fuel. However, his vehicle requires too much, making that option too troublesome, hence his current situation. Wang Cheng slowly drove forward. Among the group of survivors charging at the gas station, a thin man approached. What do you need? For your small vehicle, filling it up would require at least a small pack of biscuits. But your car is electric, right? Don't get it wrong. This price is still considered reasonable. Most survivor teams have some supplies, and this little supply is generally manageable, which explains why everyone is relatively cooperative. Wang Cheng glanced around. The thin man's companions were scattered in the vicinity, keeping an eye out for mutated beings while also being wary of the other survivors. Wang Cheng directly tossed the 2 liang of raw rice he had just collected from the grain store to the man, saying, fill it up. The thin man was somewhat surprised, pondering the 2 liang of rice in his hand, his face showing some excitement as he whispered to his companion, this might not be a fool. This pack of rice is at least 2 liang, much more valuable than a small pack of biscuits. According to our charges, it would be enough to fill a bus, and for this small vehicle, it should be quite profitable. His companion whispered back, Shu, keep your voice down, don't let him hear. In fact, both Wang Cheng and Su Ling in the vehicle had already heard. Su Ling couldn't help but say, hey, didn't you hear? You're giving too much. Wang Cheng remained silent and drove the car to the fuel pump. The thin man personally ran over to fill Wang Cheng's tank, surprised to discover that Wang Cheng was indeed using fossil fuel. He felt he was taking advantage of Wang Cheng, silently pleased with himself, and quickly started refueling. However, he soon began to sense that something was off. How much fuel could such a small car take? A minute passed, and the display showed the cost had surpassed 300. It seemed like a bottomless pit, with no indication of reaching a full tank. Wang Cheng glanced at the dashboard. His energy levels were rising slowly. The fossil fuel being added to the battleship was being rapidly converted into the ship's special energy. For the thin man, this truly felt like a bottomless pit. In the blink of an eye, the cost exceeded 500, and Wang Cheng's vehicle still wasn't full. A normal sedan should be filled up between 300 to 400, but when it reached 500, it was already beyond comprehension. The thin man was taken aback, even stopping the refueling to take a few glances. If he continued, that small amount would not be a gain, but a loss. Wang Cheng leaned out of the car and asked, why did you stop? It's not full yet. The thin man's expression changed. This isn't right. You must have modified this car. You're trying to scam fuel. Wang Cheng replied, you said to fill it up for a pack of biscuits. And I gave you more than enough. What do you mean by this? Are you scamming me, or am I scamming you? Isn't this gas station state-owned? You're just trying to profit off the apocalypse. The thin man stepped back, convinced he had been tricked, and immediately started shouting for help. Soon, the leader of the survivor group, a middle-aged man, approached. He looked refined, like a small business owner, dressed cleanly, slightly overweight, and without any visible weapons. After listening to the thin man's words, he frowned, glancing at Wang Cheng's very compact car. This isn't an electric car. And you've spent 500 without filling it up? The thin man said, Boss, I think there's something wrong. This guy might be here to scam fuel. He has probably set up a big tank inside, draining it from the gas tank, which is why it seems endless. The small boss frowned and approached, knocking on Wang Cheng's car window. Brother, are you looking for trouble? Meanwhile, not far away, his subordinates began to gather, some even bringing what appeared to be a machine gun obtained from the military, aiming it in this direction. The atmosphere became tense. Su Ling grew anxious. But Wang Cheng remained calm, grabbing the shotgun, rolling down the window, and looking at him. What's the matter? I've already given you the money you wanted. Why won't you fill it up? You say I'm looking for trouble, but I think you're the one causing it. The small boss immediately noticed the shotgun in Wang Cheng's hand. His heart skipped a beat. However, he wasn't without courage. He wouldn't have dared to approach alone otherwise. His gaze instinctively moved to the back of Wang Cheng's car. Wang Cheng noticed his gaze and shifted slightly. Guessing what he was thinking, he wanted to see where all that fuel was going if the car could take that much. If you want to see, I'll show you. Even surrounded by a crowd and facing a machine gun, Wang Cheng remained unfazed. The small boss took a quick look, and his expression changed again. The car was small, but the back was completely filled with supplies. The amount of supplies could rival the 20-plus people in their group. One car, 2 people, with so many supplies? And most importantly, with all these supplies, there was no way such a small car could hold that much fuel. The thin man behind him saw the supplies too. His face changed, eyes blazing with greed, almost bursting with desire. The small boss was both confused and alarmed when he heard Wang Cheng say calmly, "My vehicle is this size. Do you think I'm cheating you out of fuel? I just want to fill it up, nothing more. But if you want to start something, you can try it. Let's see if your machine gun takes me out first, or if I eliminate all of you first." The first part of Wang Cheng's statement was delivered in a calm tone, but as he continued, his voice lowered, and a fierce intensity became evident. Wang Cheng was deliberate in his approach. He showcased his supplies and weapons to convey that he was not to be trifled with. If the small boss failed to understand or didn't care, Wang Cheng wasn't afraid of them. However, what he did worry about was that this was a gas station. Once the shooting started, there was a real danger of blowing everyone up, and killing wouldn't yield any energy points. Although this group was despicable for profiting in the apocalypse, Wang Cheng didn't want to get involved to that extent. If these people didn't take a step back, he certainly wouldn't go looking for trouble. Chapter 52, Tightening the Pressure. Inside the gas station, the atmosphere was tense, and Wang Cheng's statement was sharp and revealing. The small boss quickly came to his senses, noticing the cold glint in Wang Cheng's eyes, causing a slight tremor in his heart. He immediately took a step back, reaching out to stop his greedy, thin subordinate from acting rashly, saying, "You make a good point. You're not looking for trouble. Fill him up." The thin subordinate was stunned, disbelief written on his face. They were not good people themselves, having managed to survive in the apocalypse to this extent. And he couldn't understand why his boss didn't just take advantage of such a big opportunity with only 2 people and a vehicle full of supplies. Normally, they would have seized the chance, taken the supplies, and left the other party with their life at most. But this time, the small boss shot him a stern look. His authority in the survivor team seemed high, and the thin man trembled slightly. Though puzzled, he didn't dare to ask further and quickly followed the middle-aged boss's instructions to continue fueling Wang Cheng's vehicle. The remaining subordinates, receiving the small boss's signal, dispersed and turned their weapons away. The tense atmosphere relaxed instantly. The small boss personally stood aside, watching the thin man fuel Wang Cheng's vehicle. The 92-octane gasoline cost over $9 a liter, and after filling up for a total of $1,200, Wang Cheng finally called for a stop. Preparing to drive away, the small boss pondered for a moment, then proactively blocked Wang Cheng's vehicle, not only returning a bag of rice, but also offering a pack of cigarettes, saying, "Brother, my name is Chen Jigua. Before the apocalypse, I ran a few sign companies. I know how hard it is to meet in these times. Consider this tank of gas a gift from me, and this pack of cigarettes as a way to make friends. I hope you can give me this face, and if you need anything in the future, feel free to ask." Wang Cheng silently looked at him, accepted the items, nodded, and replied, "Wang Cheng hopes to see you again." With that, he rolled up the window and drove away. Su Ling was a bit surprised and said, "Isn't he trying to cause trouble for you? Instead, he wants to be friends with you. What's going on? And what's up with your vehicle?" Wang Cheng remained silent, driving forward quietly. In fact, Wang Cheng had also been prepared to take action, but since it was a gas station, he preferred to avoid conflict if possible. Therefore, he first displayed his resources and made a strong statement, hoping that if the other party could understand, there would be no need for confrontation. If they couldn't comprehend, he wouldn't hesitate to act. However, he didn't expect that Chen Jigua would be a clever person, quick to respond, thus avoiding this confrontation. Looking back, it was no surprise that Chen Jigua had so many subordinates and weapons, occupying the gas station without clashing with anyone. He was clearly someone who could read the situation well. Having connections with such a person wouldn't hurt him. Of course, for Wang Cheng, The most crucial thing was that his battleship's energy was already fully charged.